Here on the Westmoreland Sports Network, Sean Meyers now joined by the head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans, Nick Keefer, as his team gets its first conference victory at the expense of Canon-McMillan last week. And first off, Nick, thanks so much for doing this. Always enjoy talking to you. It felt like such a massive victory for your program after two tough losses against the two elite teams in Class 6A, North Allegheny, Pittsburgh Central Catholic. You needed a bounce back, and you got it against the Big Macs. So 38-27 victory. What stood out most about your team's performance?
I was just so proud of our kids. Like you said, we had North Allegheny and Central Catholic back to back, and those are the two premier programs in 6A. And I was proud of our efforts in those games, and I thought we battled for a little bit of each game, but wasn't good enough. But I thought that all three phases of the game contributed to the win. Our offense was clicking. Dom Dietrich had a great game. Our defense caused some turnovers, and also our special teams caused turnovers on the one kickoff. So I was really happy with how we came together and everyone was locked in, and the kids deserved it on homecoming.
You still have a long way to go. As I mentioned, that was your first conference victory. So now 1-2, and it feels like this is a season defining stretch that began with that win against the Big Macs and a few more big tests upcoming. But to get that first victory in the conference, how important was that?
It's huge. We always say that 6A football is big boy football, and it takes a lot to win a game in conference. So to be able to bounce back and beat a good team like Canon-McMillan, and they have a lot of good kids. I think they had 5 all-conference players returning. You saw how good Sabatucci, the tight end, he had a huge game on offense for them. We had trouble defending him, but I think our kids were up to the challenge, and I thought they played really well, and I was really excited for them.
Dom Dietrich has been special this year. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, we know his backstory. A lot of people have been rooting for him. So for him to go out and deliver pretty much every single week, he has put up incredible numbers. He's been an efficient passer. He's been a prolific passer. And it seemed like maybe he had one of, if not his best game ever this past Friday. So how does he continue to do it week in and week out?
Dom Dietrich, a kid like that doesn't come around very often. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to coach him for now 4 years. I also, I've known him since I think he came to Hempfield in 2nd grade, and I had him at Fort Allen Elementary School. So I've known him a really long time, and he's always been an outstanding young man. And everything he's gone through from last year, not having a summer to work before your junior year, and then everything that happened this summer with him, I'm just so happy for him to be able to deliver like we all knew he could. So it was great to see him really shine last week, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that again this week as well. All the kids look up to him, and what I thought was really great about that is we knew that he was close to breaking our school record, and I didn't tell him prior to the game because I knew he wouldn't want a distraction. And on our last series, when we got the fumble recovery, I told him, I said, "Hey, you're 9 yards from breaking the school record. Let's throw." And the kids were like, "Let's throw a hitch and get it." And he said, "No, we don't need to do that. Go out there. Let's kneel the ball and win the game." And that just shows the type of leader he is, that he doesn't care about statistics. He doesn't care about records. All he cares about is winning and his teammates. So I was just so proud of him. And that's just, what we expect from him at this point. He's just such a great kid.
And he's got some really good weapons around him. Jack Kopis is a proven guy, and Aiden Steinbeiser at running back has proven now for a couple of years that he can get the job done. But an emerging new target in Lucas Simmons, a guy who didn't play football the last couple of years, had his breakthrough performance. I know there was a lot of excitement, even in the preseason, about what he could provide. It feels like it's starting to click now. Do you get that same sense?
No doubt. And when you do step away from the game for a couple years, there is a little bit of learning curve there, right? But this summer in 7-on-7s, he played outstanding. But it is a little different when you get the pads on. So he's been working really hard, and we knew it was going to come. It just it happened to happen on on Friday, and he had 3 touchdowns. He wanted a 4th one. He almost had it at the last series of the game there. And I was just really excited for him because he works very hard. And like you said, he's a 3-sport athlete now. He plays basketball, and also he's a really good baseball player. So just what an athlete for him to be able to pick up kind of where he left off from middle school football. He's a big target. He's 6'4". He goes up, he catches the ball really good with his hands. So I'm just really excited for him that he was able to break out on last Friday.
Before you started conference play, your team got off to a 3-0 start to 2025 and some impressive victories in there. I had a chance to see your dominant performance against Kiski area earlier this season. What is the significance for a team that has aspirations of taking a step forward like your squad did this year to see that proof in the pudding with those 3 consecutive victories?
No, these kids just work so hard in the off season. I think we gave them 2 weeks off last year in November, and we were in the weight room 3 days a week, November and December, and then we came in 4 days a week starting in January. So we spent so much time together, and these kids have worked so hard. They didn't miss very many workouts. They were always in there. This summer we went 4 days a week with 7-on-7. Once a week, we were either at, Pitt team camp, W&J. We had our county 7-on-7, or we'd have teams come to us, or we'd go somewhere. So they've put so much time in, and we talk about all the time that all that work they put in, they deserve this. They have to make sure they're staying locked in and taking care of business, and they really are. We say that bad teams, there are no leaders. Good teams, the coaches lead. And if you want to be a great team, the players have to lead. And I think we're really getting to the point in our program where these players are stepping up and really being great leaders. And the younger kids are looking up and following them. So I'm really happy and excited for these kids. It's been a lot of fun so far this season, and I'm excited to hopefully continue rolling here.
So you mentioned that the players are leading, but obviously you have a big hand in that as well. I know that it was a rocky start your first year guiding this program, probably expected with a lot of players moving on. You had a young group you were breaking in. So the players have improved throughout your time. How have you improved during your tenure as the head coach?
I think, every game, every week, you try to reflect on what you could have done better. And I think that this is also, when you have a new staff, everyone has to learn how to coach with each other as well. Like you said, that first year, we only won 1 game, but we battled a lot, and a lot of younger kids got really good experience. And then last year, we took some strides and faced some adversity, and were able to win 4 games. So I think that it's kind of all starting to click right now with the years we've all been together, including the kids. A lot of these seniors are 3-year starters, and we kind of went through those growing pains together. So I just think it's just every year is obviously different, but I learn each, and I try to lean on my staff. I feel like we have a really good staff here at Hempfield, and we have a lot of head coaches on our staff through other sports. You look at I lean on my dad a lot. He has 40 years of coaching experience. My brother's the head basketball coach for basketball at Fraser. And Tim Van Horn is the head track coach at Norwin. They just won Whitfield championships last spring. Dave Murray has, I think, 26 state champions in the throws. So, I lean on all those guys. Pootie Carson comes in, he volunteers down at West Virginia University. So I feel like we have a really good staff, and I try to lean on those guys too, to try to make sure, we're always reflecting to see how's our practices. Are we as efficient as we should be? Tim Evans does a great job with our nutrition and our weight room aspect, and the strength training. So we try to really put everything together, because that's what it takes to win football games in 6A. You can't just, it's not just showing up on Friday or our practices during the week. It's 12 months of preparation that leads into these games.
Make sure you pass along my regards to your dad, by the way. I spent a lot of time covering his basketball teams down at Carlo. I'm sure he's having a good time helping you out now and seeing this success as well. So it's a big week upcoming. There's no doubt about it. We at the Westmoreland Sports Network, it's one of the biggest games we cover every year, but I would imagine that your players treated a little bit different than some of the other 6A opponents. It's a rivalry matchup against Norwin. How is this one different than the preparation for every other game?
Well, I think just when you're in a conference and you have hour and 20-minute drives towards places, we're not growing up with those kids, so it really doesn't mean as quite as much. When you look at playing that team up the road, we say 11 miles in the shade of blue, and they grew up playing against them in different sports, and I think it does mean a lot. That these seniors played for Mike and Joe and Connor, so that they have a relationship with them. So I think it's that familiarity that you have that just makes it a little bit extra special. It's down the road at their place. I think it's their homecoming, so we're expecting a lot of our fans to go there. So they're excited about that, to have a crowd behind them too. So it's what high school sports are supposed to be about. That you're playing local rivalries and kids and grew up with, playing against in baseball and hoops and things like that. So everyone has a little bit extra pep in their step this week.
I know that while your program seemingly is on the verge of taking a big step this year, the Knights are doing the same thing, because they were really plagued by injuries a year ago. I think they lost their final 8 games, but they look like a much different team in 2025. So how are they noticeably better?
You look at they're a big, strong, fast team, and a lot of those kids, like you said, that got injured last year are bigger, or back bigger and stronger. Tristan Tavares, he's a great ball player. Threw for 2,500 yards. It was a first-team all-conference quarterback as a sophomore in 5A. So we've seen him the last 4 years. You feel like he's been there forever. They have a big, strong running back, and then their defensive line is much improved. Their linebackers fly to the ball and hit. They have a lot of skill out there with Brzezinski and Jake Knight. So they're a very skilled team, and they're going to be well coached like all these 6A teams. We're very familiar with each other, with being on Mike's staff prior to this. So and they know what our kids can do too. So it's exciting this week, preparing for each other and to see what each team will do differently leading up to the game. But it's exciting for the kids and the coaches.
What are some of the biggest keys for your team to come back with the victory?
Well, like any game, you're playing on the road in 6A. We have to take care of the football. You can't turn it over. You got to stop the run, and you got to create turnovers. They're a splash play team. They're going to try to take some shots. So we got to make sure we're containing Tristan if he is playing, or if it's Josh playing quarterback, we got to make sure we're wrapping him up, because he's a big, strong kid who can run, and they're going to try to run the ball with us. So we have to tackle. If we don't stop the run and tackle, it's going to be a long night for us. So just play sound football. Don't turn the ball over, and hopefully we cause some, and then that should put us in a position to be successful.
Lastly, I remember I had the call of the game last year, and it felt like a roller coaster a little bit. Tavares did not start the game. He came in. He kind of tried to battle through some ailments. Clearly wasn't 100%. A game that really came down to the wire. When you think back to that, is there anything you and your players can take from that blueprint a year ago and apply it to this year?
I think just like we've done all season and last season, you just got to keep chopping. You have to keep believing. You can't get too high when things are going good, or too low if there's any adversity. And that's why these leaders on our team have done a really good job of not flinching in any type of adversity they face. Same thing happened this year with us at North Hills. We were up, and then they came back, and we ended up winning. Then Kiski, there were some up and downs. Same thing with Franklin. We were up, I think 21-0, and they came back, and then we didn't get a fourth down. They had a big injury, but then we ended up coming through at the end. So it was, I think all those things lead to kids just getting stronger and growing, and we just got to make sure we lean on that experience this week, because we're playing against a great football team.
Nick, thanks so much for doing this. As always, I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for everything you guys do for Westmoreland County sports. We appreciate you. You're the best.
That is Nick Keefer, the head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans. We'll take a quick break and be back with more right after this on the Westmoreland Sports Network.